So I just got off the turf. I just finished wrapping up at the mothership, you know, running classes and whatnot, and had a really good debate, not really a debate, but a discussion with one of our longtime members, and a newer member was in here kind of listening more or less. And it was interesting, and I had all my gear for our podcast. It's not a podcast night, but I had it on me, so I just thought, why not come here and shoot kind of like my opinion, because it really got me thinking on a number of things. More or less, we were talking about how the longer you do Syphus, years, you know, you kind of have a different perspective or a different take on it. There's something kind of like I refer to as like the honeymoon phase. When you first come into Syphus, I'd say like the first year, it's such a like refreshing new type of workout, and it's just a shock to your system. You feel kind of like you've had an epiphany, like, oh, there's a different way to work out than just going to a gym and using a treadmill or you know, stationary machines or something like that. We're not doing powerlifting. You don't have to do just running. Whatever it is that you're doing, you're like, oh, this is the thing I've been looking for. So that happens a lot with first timers in Syphus training. And then also in the beginning, you're kind of really chasing that score. You're really, first off, figuring out what the scoring system is, trying to improve it over time. You see it going up usually in your first year, and that keeps you motivated, that keeps you going. But there comes a point in time in everybody's career, and I mean, having come up with the concept myself, and I'm around it all the time, I'm always motivated by trying to redefine what it is that I'm trying to do next with Syphus. And I think you have to do that in any type of fitness endeavor that you have, whether it's traditional lifting or if it's a sport that you play. You're always trying to maybe not necessarily beat the score. If you're like a runner and you're trying to PR all the time, I mean, that's not always possible, just like it's not always possible in Syphus training. And so that kind of gets me to my point. I think there's a point in time when you get to do Syphus long enough where you have kind of some like wisdom, Syphus wisdom, in that you realize that you can't try to always score a certain score all the time. And I know that that's not always going to be the popular opinion. I know that there are people here in Cinco Shores that disagree. It's like, if you're going to come here, you're going to work out, and you're going to score the best that you can. And that's all well and good, and I see that point, and I see the idea behind that, but I think that, I know that form always takes priority, because the reason why you're here, hopefully, is to not just get a high score and post it on the website. It's to improve your fitness level, enjoy the moment that you're in, and try to rub off on others by doing, you know, the correct form and whatnot. But what really kind of got me thinking was kind of like what I've done the last year. So I would say heading into March Mayhem of 2017, I had it in my head, okay, I'm going to set a goal for myself and just throw the score out the window, which was tough for me to do. It's tough. I think it's going to be tough for anybody to do. But it was tough for me to do because I felt like, in a way, that I had to also hold like set a certain example for the people around me, and I felt like score and form are like intrinsically like combined, and you also have to score high and you also have to have good form in order for those two things to be, you know, like people really like accept that. And especially coming up with the concept and, you know, doing it the longest than anybody else has, I felt like I should still be scoring a certain number, whatever that number is. So going into March, not into March Mayhem, it would have been right after March Mayhem of last year, I said, you know what, I am just going to totally step back, focus on my form to the point to where some people may call it excessive, some people may think I'm not going harder because I'm scoring visibly lower, or I'm taking more breaks, or I look like I'm more fatigued. Well, that's because I am, because I'm doing form like to the nth degree. So I started doing that, and I started noticing mostly positive physical benefits. Not to get too much into it, but I definitely lost some weight, good weight, way more flexible. And again, it's about the enjoyment of the workout in it. I don't feel like, for the most part, I'm, you know, dreading going into like a series of squats because I'm so sore and beat up from the day before. Yeah, I still get sore every now and then, but it's not like too arduous or too much of a thing, and I don't have like joint stiffness or anything like that. The only negative thing, which is not really all that negative, that I would say that I noticed kind of going this route this past year that I'm speaking about was that I lost, I would say size, like muscle mass, if that's kind of like what you're going for. Now, when I started this when I was 26 and in a little bit like later in my 20s, you know, like a little bit of muscle mass was kind of like the look that people wanted and looked for, and I think a lot men still kind of aspire for. But you get to a point in time you're like, I don't need that. I just want to be efficient. I want to be functional. I want to be injury free, and I want to be able to perform. And so that's the mentality that I had with it. The other thing is I noticed, a very minimal amount that I've lost a little bit of aerobic capacity. So I may not be able to run a 5K or 10K as quickly as I could when I was chasing the score. And I think I know that's because doing Syphus for a score, you're probably doing more exercises with less breaks, so you're continuously boosting that threshold. So I've noticed that I get a little bit more winded, but I do feel like I do the exercises more effectively. And the trade-off, I could tell you right now, I would take the last year that I've done just form first as my primary like North Star any day over chasing the score. So I spent the entire year pretty much like following that mentality. And there were times where I was like, no, I want to score a certain amount or whatever. Like Turf Wars, we were all going all out here, and I'm sure you guys all were at the other locations too. So I really, really tried to, score high. I think that's the last time I scored 900 something. But I just really can't stress enough how important it was for me to take that break. So now, in retrospect, it's a year later. We just finished March Mayhem. We ended up winning with my partner Kathy, and I attribute all that to, having a good relationship with your partner, but also being able to value the form first mentality I had in the year before, and then knowing that when it came down to it, I could still perform at a higher level. And then I would just want to say it paid off. It definitely paid off. But then again, now I'm sitting here, a couple weeks, month or so after March Mayhem, and now I'm reevaluating. Okay, what is it that I want to do with this year? Okay, it's been 8 years that I've been doing Syphus training. I would say since probably 2013, the scores have been different. So it's like, I wouldn't consider anything I did before really 2013 to be really applicable to what we're doing now. So, 2013, 14, 15, and a little bit into 16, I would say my not primary focus, but I valued score just as much as I did my form. And I thought I had good form until I really slowed down. And I would say I thought I had really good form until March of 2017, where I slowed myself down to the point to where, even for me, I was like, wait a minute, I've been preaching form first, but really I haven't been acting form first. And I still push myself. Before I was pushing myself a little bit too soon to do that plate shake or trombone when my arms were just cashed and fatigued. That's not something you want to rush through, okay? And things like I think of ball and chain or something like that, where I'm really trying to maximize my flexibility and pay attention to my feet, make sure I'm not doing like a so-called cheat. I noticed that when I slowed down and did those the right way, that it felt like I was getting a better workout, even though I wasn't necessarily trying to cram all these tasks into one. And so, knowing that I did that last year, I've kind of set a new goal for myself this year, 2018, and it's one I don't know if I'm going to stick with, because it's so hard to detach with certain scoring things. But I'm strongly thinking about not keeping a score. More frequently not keeping a score than keeping a score. And this comes from a discussion I had with Jim DeMercurio, one of the owners the owner at Shelby Township with his wife, Jen. We were talking about how probably not too far in the future, we will have 3 different statistics. Right now, we keep track of, how many times it's take a score or compete is what we say, how many times it's been completed, which not everybody falls into any of those, and then how many workouts you've done. Well, we're missing one, and the conversation he and I had kind of stemmed from the handicapping for our tournaments, primarily March Mayhem, in that some people, and I'm one of them, can score higher when they're competing, but they're not at that competition level or that competition rate the entire year or the season or the 30-day little snapshot. So what they're capable of is not really reflected in the score. So what we need is that another column that shows, okay, when they're competing, when they're just kind of practicing, as I like to call it, or do, and then if you want to keep track of how many you complete and how many workouts total. So I'm already kind of doing that. I've been doing that for about a month now, where I keep a score. I know ahead of time, am I going to keep a score or am I not going to keep a score? Because that's really important if you're someone who's going to, entertain this idea. Am I going to keep a score or not going to keep a score prior to the workout? And then keep a score if you don't do well and keep a score if you do well. But then that number should be a little bit more accurate. Now maybe you're not going to score as high as you'd like to, and that may it'll throw down your 30-day and your seasonal and all that kind of stuff quicker, but you know that it's going to be more representative of your, I guess, your ability level. And so I've kind of set a goal for myself is to try to at least log 1 score a week, but still do at least 3 to 4 workouts. So I'm going to see a lot of dashes right now that it looks like I'm not either working out or not keeping a score, but I haven't really told anybody about this unless people are like looking at my profile, that it's something that I may try to stick with just because I want to try a different challenge, a different way of thinking about the scoring system for me, a different way to approach Syphus training, stick with that form first mentality and see how it plays out. So like I said, I don't know if this is going to be something that people will necessarily like or say, oh, you can't do that, but I can, and it's just a way for me to try to push myself and motivate myself a little bit more. And so, again, the way this kind of relates to the conversation I was having with somebody else earlier today is that I think that when you get to a certain point and you've been doing it long enough, that one needs to reevaluate what it is they're trying to attain on the turf. And that doesn't come until you've hit a certain level. And if you're asking yourself whether or not you're ready to make a shift or something needs to change, I can give you some pointers. For instance, I would say the first 2 years, you shouldn't even be thinking about this really right now. Your first 2 years, you're understanding the scoring system, you're just trying to wrap your head around all the different exercises and the progressions that we do, and you're trying to figure out what it is that your boulder is. So it takes a good year for you to figure out the score and like what your baseline level is and what your high scoring potential is and what the slope is, all that stuff. In those first 2 years, it's critical that you're just showing up, being committed, being consistent with your workouts, getting to know the people, just enjoy it. Just be a part of it and just work out, do the best you can with form. But then it comes to your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 8th, whatever it is year that you're doing Syphus training. That's when you start to realize that maybe you were chasing the scores all along and you weren't really paying attention to form as much as you could. And I think that only comes with the knowledge and the wisdom that you get from doing Syphus training for so long, because not only have you done all the exercises and probably to the best of your ability score-wise, but you know them, you see how other people perform them, you see how new people perform them, you see how people have been doing it for a long time do those tasks. So then you can kind of step back and say like, well, wait a minute, I didn't realize that I was supposed to do, swag in every other step, something like that, and just redefine it for yourself. Just set a different standard. Say like, you know what, for this month, it doesn't have to be a year like I did, for this month, I'm gonna go slower, I'm gonna let my score suffer for 100 points, and I'm just gonna worry about just going slow and taking care of the task at hand, and see how it plays out. If you're somebody who's wondering whether or not you're at that level, or if you're ready to switch things up and do a different challenge, and you know, some people go to a different like weight class if they want to go higher. That's a different challenge in itself. But I would say look at your scores. If you're somebody who started off and you probably had a quick spike, almost everybody sees like a quick spike in the first couple months that they do Syphus training because they're just learning the ropes. Then you hit a plateau, and then you get in better shape. So you increase again there, and then you hit a plateau. If you've already hit that second plateau where you've kind of hit your max, where you're scoring, you know, let's say you're finishing workouts, or you know that like an 850 is that's your wheelhouse, and you're going to be at 850 almost all the time on a good day or bad day, and you're starting to think things like, how can I go faster? What can I improve? Why can't I get any higher score-wise? Why, you know, something like that. Or if you're thinking those thoughts, that's when you should say, like, you know, talk with me or a pro at your turf and say, what can I do to switch it up? And I'm sure that you're gonna find that you should maybe detach with the scores a little bit. And I know that sounds crazy coming from me, because the scores is what brought you in. The scores is kind of what gave you that hook, that thing that, like as Bill and I joke around, the dangling carrot at the, you know, in front of your face that you're trying to chase. That eventually goes away. That number, that alluring number of you trying to increase and improve, that does eventually go away, and you have to make it your own. You got to do something different with it. And so you get to the point to where you start off by valuing the score so much, and then you have to kind of like let it go and realize that it's just a number. It's just a number that we use to evaluate people's performance, and it's all subjective based. It's not all subjective. It's subjective based on the person's form, but the scoring system itself is subjective. But it's really only what it is that you want to make of it. So now my 700 is what my 900 used to be, but I feel way better at the 700 than I am. And so I feel like specifically, to be specific, sometimes the people that have been here the longest, and I don't mean here specifically in St. Clair Shores, I just mean here as a community doing Syphus, have been here the longest, can find themselves in a rut when they are comparing how they used to score to what they're scoring now. And I think that conversation can be stopped immediately when you just realize, wait a minute, I'm just caring about the score too much, and start thinking about my form. How can I perfect my form? How can I get the most out of this 1 hour that I'm here? And I can see it. Like, I can see individuals who are in that rut. I get in those ruts every now and then, but I can see, like, visibly when someone has the weight of the score like pinned on their forehead, and it's making their movements rushed, like heavy, dense, like almost like they're trying to force themselves to move like quicker than their body is capable of, or they're, you know, slighting a task. They're skipping out on some critical things that are, you know, based in form, or making, I guess, lofty goals that I want to finish every workout that I do. That's not how it's designed. It's designed to continuously challenge you. If you're somebody who thinks that you got to finish every single workout, well, me being the person who's designing the exercises and the workouts, I want to keep challenging you. So if you're going to still be able to finish it every single time, well, then I'm not doing my job of challenging you. So the whole goal is to grow, to seek the challenge. And the challenge is not always in scoring high. It's not always in finishing a workout. It should be about persevering through something that's difficult, doing it with a group of people that are awesome. And I think if you let the score go, but still have it there as your gauge, your barometer to make sure that, all right, I'm still keeping up on par where I want to be. Give that feedback to me every now and then. I think you're going to see that it's going to be much better than you thought. But I think detaching yourself with the score is a very, very tough thing to do, and I still do it too. But once you let it go, it allows you to be a little bit freer, a little bit less concerned with your performance on the turf from a statistical standpoint. It's more, how did I do today in light of my form? Yes, I got a great workout. So now you're thinking right, because okay, I did all of those exercises the best way I could, and I didn't score very well. Oh well, that is what it is. Or if you weren't keeping a score, you still got a really killer workout, I'm sure. So it just makes you lighter. I seriously, when I feel like I work out and I'm not chasing a score and I'm just here to enjoy the moment, I feel lighter. I feel like my movements have more life to them. I feel more, I don't know. You know what? I just say go ahead, try that out. If you got questions, hit me up, and just remember form first.